There's something satisfying about introducing a Peabody Award that was the brainchild of my boss. Combines career survival with facts. Anyway, in this world of focus groups and corporate decision-making, when Ted Turner was in St. Petersburg, Russia with Pat Mitchell, and he realized the people who had been part of the Cold War were getting older, he said, why don't we do a history of the Cold War? And then Pat Mitchell came in and told him the budget, and he said, go do it. And now this fascinating multi-part TV series is destined to become one of the definitive records, if not the definitive records, of the Cold War period.
We were irate. How did we learn about this? Through the radio, on the morning of the 28th. They broadcast that an agreement had been reached between the Soviet Union and the United States, that Kennedy was offering Khrushchev a guarantee. It really was a disgraceful agreement. It never crossed my mind they would do anything like this.
The whole world was under the impression that Khrushchev had lost because he'd given in to the pressure of a strong president, that he'd taken everything out of Cuba but got nothing in return. No one knew about the agreement regarding the missiles in Turkey. If you ask who won or who lost, I'd say neither Kennedy nor Khrushchev.
There is no question that if it hadn't been solved, we had invaded Cuba, we would have been in a nuclear war. And the number of people who would have been killed around the world in that nuclear war would have been absolutely disastrous. That was the biggest crisis of the 20th century.
Here to accept co-executive producers, my dear friend Pat Mitchell and Sir Jeremy Isaacs.
In that first conversation with Ted, when he gave us the mandate to produce a global, comprehensive documentary series on the Cold War, he had a couple of observations, Tedisms as we call them. He said, by the time you finish this, we could be in another Cold War, and certainly the current conflict in the Balkans reminds us of that risk. And then he worried about his grandchildren and what they would understand about the events that had shaped their parents' and grandparents' lives. So he said, make it have lasting value to future generations. And then he said, and if you get it right, well, you just might win a Peabody. So here we are 5 years later, and while the Peabody was not the goal, it is the reward for good work, and that is due in large part to my co-executive producer, Sir Jeremy Isaacs.
It was Ted who said, take a long, slow, if you can, thorough look at events that have shaped the lives of 3 generations, and who said, do so in a way that does justice to the experience not just of one nation, but of many nations. And that takes vision and courage and clout, and I honor him for that. Pat was assiduous in her critical function in the making of the program, but always supportive and always constructive. And it's been a marvelous partnership, which I shall always value. And I must mention I must pay tribute to the team of 40 to 50 people who worked on this project for 3 years and made it what it was. If I had to specify 2 people, one would be the series producer Martin Smith, who worked 8 days a week on it for that period. And the other is, I think, an unsung profession within television journalism, and that's the researchers, the people who found the images in film and video and documentary and propaganda and in home movies that make the thing sing and live, and the people who persuaded more than 500 others around the world to trust them and talk to us and put history on the record. Making this kind of series is a team business, and I'm very, very proud of the team that worked on this project.
We must add it because the Peabody Board chose to also. Our gratitude to the CNN.com team who created a remarkable website that will add to the long-lasting educational and historical value of the series. Thank you very much.